Now, obviously, we all know Ronaldo the athlete, right? The goals, the trophies, that sheer, relentless drive. But in this conversation, we get something pretty rare. We actually get Ronaldo the philosopher, the father, and the businessman, looking right at the horizon of his own retirement. So we're going to decode the three pillars of his legacy: how he views the next generation taking over his sport, how he approaches the heavy burden of fatherhood, and exactly how he's mentally engineering his exit from the beautiful game. Okay, let's dive into this and start with the ultimate question hanging over the sport of football right now. Who takes the crown when the king steps down? I mean, for over 2 decades, the football world has literally been dominated by a duopoly. But as the sun begins to set on that era, Ronaldo is acutely aware of the shifting landscape. He isn't just ignoring the young talent coming up behind him, he's actively analyzing them. He's looking at the heirs to his throne with a very discerning, experienced eye. So that brings us to Pillar 1, passing the torch to the next generation. Let's look at Ronaldo's macroscopic view of the current global football landscape. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this quote. Ronaldo says of Yamal, he's doing something even Messi has never done. Let that sink in for a second. Cristiano Ronaldo, a man whose entire career has been defined by an epic, history-making rivalry with Lionel Messi, is using his greatest rival as the ultimate measuring stick to praise a 16-year-old. It's a very clear statement. He genuinely believes Yamal is on track to be one of the best players of this entirely new generation. But raw talent isn't the only ingredient for a legacy, and Ronaldo knows this better than anyone, especially when looking at Jude Bellingham's explosion onto the scene at Real Madrid. Ronaldo emphasizes that Bellingham's success isn't just about his huge individual potential, it's heavily reliant on the ecosystem he stepped into. Ronaldo describes the Real Madrid environment as clean and good. Bellingham is in a position where he is naturally growing alongside other elite, established young talents. He's learning and developing right next to players like Camavinga, Rodrigo, and Vinicius. It's this perfectly supportive framework that Ronaldo believes is actively helping Bellingham become a top player for the next era. All right, let's pivot a bit to Pillar 2, fatherhood without pressure. We're stepping away from the bright lights of global superstars now and moving into something much more intimate. We're stepping into Ronaldo's home. How does a man who demands absolute perfection from himself handle the development of his own children, specifically his 14-year-old son, Cristiano Jr., who really wants to follow in his giant footsteps? The central conflict here is just fascinating. On one side, you have the internal pressure. Cristiano Jr. genuinely wants to be a football player. The drive is coming from inside the house. But on the flip side, you have this crushing external pressure. As Ronaldo points out, the boy already has the immense, inescapable weight of simply being the son of Cristiano Ronaldo. Because of this, Ronaldo makes a very conscious decision. He refuses to add his own pressure on top of it. He realizes that throwing heavy expectations onto a 14-year-old who is already under a global microscope would just be detrimental. So how on earth do you parent in that environment? Ronaldo explicitly says that with this current generation, you can't just tell them what to do. It just doesn't work. Instead, you have to provide the map through relentless daily example. Step 1, they see him working incredibly hard every single day, at home, in training, and in the games. Step 2, he steps back. He explicitly says he must let his son make his own mistakes and do his own things. And Step 3, unconditional support. Whether his son becomes a professional player or chooses a completely different job entirely, Ronaldo is absolutely adamant that famous parents cannot force extra pressure onto their kids. Which brings us to a really grounded, poignant moment in the interview. Both Ronaldo and Rio had humble upbringings, but their children are living vastly different, highly privileged lives. Yet, Ronaldo has this profound grounding realization. He tells his friends that despite everything, his kids are going to suffer. At some point in their lives, they are going to experience pain and uncertainty. And in that hard moment, when they fall down, nobody's going to help them. They will have to stand up, perhaps cry alone, and keep going through constant work. It's a very raw acknowledgement that wealth and fame simply cannot shield you from the fundamental struggles of the human experience. That level of self-awareness perfectly cues up our final section, Pillar 3, the elite mindset and the final whistle. Here, we move into a deeply introspective space. Ronaldo looks backward at what originally forged his unique psychology. When he was asked if he always felt special as a kid growing up at Sporting and then moving to Manchester United, Ronaldo offers a very nuanced answer. He doesn't claim to be inherently better than other human beings. He actually believes everyone has unique talent. But he acknowledges his foundations were different. His education, his early environment, and crucially, his mindset were just built differently.
What set him apart was his ability to actively take advantage of his specific context and heavily rely on the unwavering support of his family and a very tight circle of close friends. He recognized his differences and basically weaponized them for success.
And this brilliantly illustrates how he manages the timeline of his own legend. Ronaldo speaks very matter-of-factly about his body. He notes that he has literally given his body to the game of football for 25 years. He's highly aware that around age 40, 41, or 42, human biology simply doesn't allow you to go much further. But here is the elite mindset in action. Because he has taken such meticulous care of himself, he's actively extending his longevity. He knows he has about 2 to 3 more years where he can still produce something genuinely good on the pitch. He's maximizing the absolute limit of his physical timeline. But what happens when that timeline finally runs out? Ronaldo is already wrestling with the reality of his boots coming off for the last time. He admits he's going to deeply miss the adrenaline of walking into a roaring stadium, the nerves of the big moments, and the unmatched high of scoring a goal. That specific rush of football will never exist for him again. But he balances that irreplaceable loss with a defense mechanism, the new chapter. He finds comfort in knowing he has a good team, good business control, and a solid financial infrastructure waiting for him. He admits he might feel a little lost and a bit sensitive at first, but he refuses to cry over it because he is actively preparing for what comes next. So the crucial point is exactly how he's preparing for that next chapter. He's taking the elite mindset from the pitch and applying it directly to the boardroom with this business blueprint. Step 1 is radical humility. He openly acknowledges that while he's smart in football, there are other areas where he simply doesn't know everything. Step 2, he deliberately surrounds himself with very, very good heads, people who are much smarter than him in business. Step 3 is to act as a student and learn from their expertise. And finally, step 4, you synthesize that knowledge to create your own unique style. It's a masterful blueprint for transitioning from a master in one field to a beginner in another. Which leaves us with this final thought. Cristiano Ronaldo has spent 25 years generating some of the most intense adrenaline the sporting world has ever seen. Yet he isn't defined by the fear of losing it. He's energized by the challenge of building what comes next. He's taking the lessons of discipline, environmental design, and humility straight into his future. So the question for all of us, as we look at our own careers and passions, is this. When your own adrenaline fades and the current game you're playing comes to an end, what chapter will you write next? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.